Next up, in the interest of time, I would like to invite Otara to give her thoughts on the attitudes of people and how the younger generation is changing and how much hope she sees in this. Otara, over to you. You have 10 to 15 minutes allocated.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me on this panel. And it's a great pleasure to be here. So I'll speak a bit about why I speak on behalf of the elephants and all animals, and also why I think it's important that we as humans start changing and making differences on behalf of the other sentient beings who live with us. Since Panchali spoke about Pinnavala, I'd just like to just touch on that initially. So what she mentioned was right. I was actually trying 3 years ago with the government, working with the government and the minister at the time, to bring in an expert, Carol Buckley, to unchain the elephants at Pinnavala. And we actually went and met the officials. And actually during that time, what I did notice, which she mentioned, was that the elephants there have no peace throughout the day, all the time. And the whole time we were there, they were being ordered on how they should behave, how they should act, how they should walk, where they should go. And even in the rivers, they're not allowed to be themselves. Elephants, as we know, when we see them in the wild and you observe them in the river, you see how playful they are, how they love rolling around, how they love splashing. And if you observe what happens in Pinnavala, you see that doesn't happen. The one thing is the river is too shallow and it's very rocky, so they can't lie down. They can't have their usual elephant life. And basically then, right throughout, I just kept seeing, them being ordered and the bullhook being pointed at them all the time. So they really don't have the life of a free elephant and the life of freedom that they're meant to have in this sort of elephant sanctuary. So it is not really, the sanctuary and the place that everyone thinks it is for elephants. I just saw a whole lot of, trauma and pressure. And, it's very, very sad to me what I see happening there. Which is also the same which I see, in the zoo, in the Dehiwala Zoo. So what I would like to also say is that I've always loved animals from the time I can ever remember as a child, and I've always known that how important it is for animals to have their freedom, to be taken care of by us humans, and for us to coexist with animals and to give them the love and freedom and happiness that they deserve, on this earth and especially in our country. So from my childhood, I've always, rescued animals, cared for animals. However, as a child, I also was very brainwashed into believing many things about animals that were, of course, that we know today, that most of us know today, are very wrong. And as a teenager, I actually used to work in the Dehiwala Zoo together with Rukshan. We spent a lot of time in the Dehiwala Zoo, and at that age, maybe from 15 to to about 17, 18, I worked in the zoo. I was very proud to be a part of the zoo, to help, to take care of the animals. And, I never realized what a life they had living in captivity. The same way at that time, I never realized the life that elephants had on chains. I've also been taken under the elephant's stomach for so-called good luck. I was a ridden elephant when I was a child. And, all with great ignorance of not knowing what these animals go through for us to have this sort of entertainment and fun in our lives, at the expense of the loss of freedom and the suffering that these animals go through. So, over the years, of course, I was lucky and fortunate to be able to understand and educate myself in a different way, because we are all educated, but a lot of educated people still believe it's the right thing to keep animals captive, to walk elephants in Perahara and to have them on chains. But there is information, there is education, proper education available to know and to understand how wrong it is for us to steal these animals from their life of freedom in the wild, of freedom of living a life with their families, all for our benefit. A lot of it is for profit, and a lot of it is for institutions of different forms where people earn money off these animals, and we as humans and as visitors, as the citizens, we contribute to their suffering by paying to visit them in zoos, to go to a Perahara and watch them, to go to Pinnavela orphanage and support that cruelty that happens there, and many forms of animal cruelty. As you know, I don't just speak about elephants, I speak about captivity for all animals, and how wrong it is, and how as humans we have to start understanding the need to change our ways, to give these animals freedom. And that also goes for dogs. As you know, that's what a lot of the work I do. And on a day-to-day basis, I see dogs who are kept in cages for their whole lives. And people, there's such a huge disconnect, and especially in Sri Lanka, there's such a huge disconnect of understanding how wrong it is, and to understand the life an animal leads, to live their whole life in a cage, to live their whole life on chains, and to deprive them of their right of freedom and a life, to a life which is natural to them. A simple way to understand why it's wrong is to really put yourself in their position. It's the simplest way to understand. And if we have any heart, and if we have any empathy within us and compassion, it would be very easy to understand what these animals are going through. And if we would ever spend a week, a day, even a week, even a month, the way an elephant lives on chains, it's the whole time, where it's ordered. He has no right. An elephant has no right to live its own life. He has to eat when it's given to eat. They have to obey the human, the mahout and the human, the same way any other animal in captivity, monkeys in the zoo, dogs in cages. It's the same thing. Once you start to realize how wrong that is, that's when you sort of start to want to speak out for them. And that's why I have chosen to do it. A lot of the time, especially linked to elephants, to a lot of hate that's sent my way, which I don't take personally, because I'm not doing this for any glory or personal gain for myself. I do it because in the hope that at least there are some people who would actually see and understand, the truth, the real truth of the situation, and have a heart and have a conscience to be able to understand and change their ways. And as humans, there's a lot of ego involved, and a lot of from things that we have been taught, and there's a lot of resistance to change. But we also are gifted with the ability to become more conscious each day, and to have the ability to change ourselves. And that to me is really, how somebody is really valued, and the ability of somebody to accept, my gosh, I was so wrong all these years, and I now understand that, that I misunderstood what I was taught, and what I was taught was wrong, and we do have the ability to change, so that's why I use my platforms. That's why I speak, with the hope of more and more people understanding. And I must say, I struggle with the amount of cruelty that I see each day in Sri Lanka. and the inability to change a lot of the laws, the regulations, no matter how much I've tried with governments, with people, with influence, with in many ways. Certain small things have changed, but I do see a change in people. There is a shift that has happened, with more people understanding why it's important to speak out, to comment, to make a difference in whatever way they can. And you know, there are benefits to many animals' lives that have happened as a result of it. You know, the greater change always happens when the greater portion of the population can change and can understand, you know, what we have been doing is wrong. And that, of course, as we know, is not only linked to animals. There are many other things that we've always thought was right, but we've changed over the years because we realized there were many reasons why those things were put in place, which are now wrong, and you know, they have been changed over the years. So you know, I do think the Hivela Zoo is sadly one of the most cruel places that I've ever been to. The cages, the life that a lot of those animals lead. And I speak of that zoo because I have a lot of experience over the years of being a part of it. So, you know, I know how the life the animals have and how they have been treated, and, you know, over the years, and how it continues today in 2022. We still deprive all these animals. And when I was there as a 16, 17-year-old, there was this baby elephant, which Rupshan will remember as well and know, that was brought to the zoo from somewhere, stolen, or we don't know where the mother was, or, you know, and her name was Indi. She must have been, I don't know, 1 year or something. And then, you know, she was, and of course, at that time I didn't realize, and it was very cute to play with the baby elephant and take care of her and all that. But, you know, I left, of course, the zoo when I was about 18, and I, of course, went to university, got married, had children, and ran my business, you know, did lots of things. And, you know, you go to the zoo today and she's still there, right, on chains, you know, 30, 40 years later. She's still in the same place, in chains. She used to have to dance and, you know, before, but I think that has kind of been stopped, and they use it now as some education or something slightly different, but it still happens in some form. And also I think it's, you know, it's important to understand the difference. I think there's a lot of disconnect with people not understanding the difference between domestic and wild animals. And, you know, I always get this pushback about, you know, oh, you take your dog on a leash, and which I rarely do, actually, because my dogs are left free. But, you know, I mean, it's quite a normal thing to take a dog on a leash. Oh, if you take a dog on a leash, what's wrong with? And then you advocate for not taking an elephant on a chain. I mean, the basic things we should understand before you try to speak against, you know, someone who's speaking about anyone who's speaking against captivity of wild animals is to understand that they're wild, and how they are made to obey human command is by their spirits being broken in the most cruel fashion, in the most cruel and hurtful way of how they are, you know, beaten, starved, and so many other things are done so that their spirits are broken so that they can obey humans. I mean, that's how wild animals of all forms are trained to dance, are trained to obey. And in the case of elephants, they continue. Why do there have to be bull hooks next to elephants? Why do they need it? If the elephant is loving what it's doing, why do you need to have a bull hook to stab the elephant and to inflict pain in their feet, in their most sensitive parts of their body? If they love what they do and if they're having a great time. I mean, like, it's simple things that we have to start understanding and know why there's advocacy, you know, to change this, because we must start living in a world where we actually care for animals, and we actually make a difference and give them the love and freedom that they deserve. And especially in the Perahara, it's a Buddhist ceremony. And as I said, I get a lot of pushback and a lot of hate sent my way whenever I speak about the elephants in the Peraharas. I am a Buddhist. I was brought up a Buddhist. I'm still a Buddhist. But I truly believe in empathy and in love and compassion, and that these animals deserve that from that's what the philosophy is about, but here we are, I'm using these elephants and expecting blessings and from these animals that are on chains and are forced to perform, forced to act and suffer in this clothing, which they don't like to wear, because especially on the ears, because that's where they get their that's how they cool themselves. And there's lately I see so many videos of people dancing with these elephants which are stressed, and and people just don't understand that they're under such severe stress, and we just don't understand their trauma and the suffering that they go through. And we're just having fun, and in 2022, if we can't educate ourselves to understand how these animals feel, what they're going through because of us, because of our doing, something is wrong with us, and we need to start understanding that and start making changes. So I will continue to speak for them as much as I can. And even if 10, 20, 100,000 people can learn something and change the lives for a few animals, then that's good. But there's a lot that we have to get more conscious, and I think it's a change in consciousness that we need to really improve the world around us, the country around us. I truly believe that Sri Lanka is suffering because of the suffering that we cause to so many animals. And I see it much more than I want to see it. It's a struggle for me to have it so much in my face sometimes, because a lot of people send it my way to ask me to help. So I see it on a day-to-day basis. And today I'm trying to release a dog that has been, the dog has bitten somebody 5 years ago, and they have made a cement box, and the dog has been in the cement box for 5 years, never allowed out. So I'm trying to find a way to release that dog. But these are the things that, in this day and age, that we can't understand is so wrong, and that we can't understand the feelings of another being that needs the same things that we do and needs a life of freedom and happiness the same way we do. There is no difference. I hope programs like this and webinars like this will help to make a difference. And please, if you understand, once you know what's wrong, use your platforms, use your connections, spread the message to as many people as you know, because it really does help when you see it on other platforms. Comment, talk about it, ask people to understand what's wrong, stop it. And sadly, I see a lot of international Facebook pages lately promoting our feeding of the wild elephant near Kataragama on that road, and a few other and many other things like that. And it's very sad that even globally there's still a lot of sort of entertainment of animals that people think is right and laugh about. But change is happening, and if together we can educate ourselves to know why it's wrong, there's a lot more that we can do together to help these animals.
Thank you, Otara. Thank you so much for your insightful words. Thank you for everything that you have strived to accomplish in all these many, many years. Clearly, we do have a lot to do going forward if we want to truly enhance domestic animal welfare in Sri Lanka, as well as examples of biodiversity in captivity as well. So there's a lot to be done, but it sounds like we do have hope And I would like to thank you personally on behalf of Rare and everybody here for everything that has been done so far and what will go into the future as well. Thank you once again.
Thank you.